prayed that if the tumor has to be there, then at least loosen it up so it's easy to get to. And that's exactly what happened. God answered my mama's prayers that week. I wasn't sure what to pray or how to pray. But people in our lives that knew what to say. And I just thank God for answering that prayer, that it was at least loose. We seen him surgeon the next day, which was a Tuesday, and he worked all kinds of miracles. When he sat us down and started talking to us, did his examination of him, and just by looking in his eyes, he could tell that it was a tumor. It's amazing what specialists know. And he said, to do pediatric surgery, you guys have no idea all the things that have to fall in line to get it done. He said, I need another doctor to do it with me. We need a special operating room for all the special equipment because we monitor every nerve that comes out of where we're dealing with to make sure we don't sever any life-threatening nerves of his breathing, his heart, things like that. So we need very special equipment, and it's going to take a miracle. And he said, I don't know if I can get him in before the end of April. And I said, you got to. I can't live with knowing he's so sick, not knowing how fast the tumor's growing. I can't do that. I said, I'm not accepting that. I said, you got to get it done within 2 weeks. He said, I'll do what I can. He was gone for a while. Came back. He said, it's on Friday. And I was just, thank you, Lord. So it was the exact same week, 3 days later, and he had all the miracles worked out. That we had surgery, we were to be there like 11 o'clock, and surgery was to start at 1. I don't think it got started on time, but once it got started, within 4 hours, we knew he was okay and was in recovery. And within an hour of that, then we could see him. I think it was 9 o'clock in the evening. We could see him. And the first words he said, well, when I got in there, the nurse was like, oh, good, you're here. I said, why? What's going on? And she's like, it's all he asks for is his mom. He wants his mom. I said, oh, thank God he knows he has a mom. I didn't know what to expect. They said he'd be on a respirator. You won't hardly recognize him and all that. I mean, there was hardly any swelling on his face, and he laid with, the oxygen was beside his pillow, beside his nose. It wasn't even attached. So he was breathing on his own, and it was a very joyful evening to know that he was going to be okay. Of course, I didn't leave his side the whole time. I do remember the next day, Dale some of his brothers had come up, and I and Trent went to get something to eat. I wanted to spend some time with Trent, and they came in to take the catheter out, and he said, where's Mom? And he said, she went to get something to eat, she'll be back. And he said, they can give her a feeding tube too. He didn't want me to go. I was glad I wasn't there. That would have broken my heart. And you got to remember, he was 9 years old. I mean, almost 10. Within a couple months, he would have been 10. But, you know, a 9-year-old, they're just so little. And as I was trying to get some pictures and things for tonight, I said, I didn't realize how little they were. Look how little they are. To me, he grew up in a matter of hours or days, you know, for all he's been through.
He would get gift cards and money, so I thought he was lucky. And he told me that he would give it all back if he could be healthy again, because he was so tired of being sick.
That was during chemo, or radiation. That's when we started radiation. I mean, the letters just poured in, money poured in, gifts poured in, stuffed animals poured in. And this kid had to lay face down in this box. It got molded just for his face. There'll be never another one like it. He can't fit in it anymore. But I'll have it at the back there if anybody wants to look at it. This was what he did during radiation. He had lay face down because they needed to radiate the back of his head and down his spine. And then this got clamped down over his head, and they clamped it fast. And then they did all their little markings and all that where the radiation lines needed to go. And after the second week of radiation, many of you gave us rides to the hospital, which we're so thankful for. He had a low dose of chemo on Mondays and radiation 5 days a week. And the second week already, he started losing his hair. In case any of you forget what he looked like. I never remember seeing him look like this. To me, he was the most handsome dude there ever was. But I look back at the pictures now, and I see how sick he really was. He was a frail, sick little boy. But we're so thankful we have the memory, but we're so thankful he's not looking like this anymore. And I don't want to scare the other kids here that aren't 9 yet. Very rarely anybody else, like I said, a doctor will only see it once in his whole lifetime, whole career. So not very many people get brain tumors, especially as children. But we had lots of miracles. The tumor was not attached to the brain stem that controls all our main organs. It was just laid against, and the doctor could just put the cotton, lifted it up, put the cotton right underneath, and they could take their time removing it without damaging many of the nerves. It did attach to the cerebellum, which is a part of our brain that controls our muscles and coordination. So when he woke up, his left side just hung. He couldn't really walk well, and he couldn't do anything with his left arm. If the doctor always did the test of his finger, and he had to touch his nose and touch the doctor's finger, and the doctor would move his finger. His right arm was pretty good, but his left, it was just all over the place till he found his finger. And a lot of times when he'd bring it back, he missed his nose. And, he just had no coordination with it at all. He learned to walk, he learned to ride bike. We didn't do any bike riding until he was all done with all the chemo. He did 6 weeks of radiation, had a month break, and then started his 9 rounds of chemo, which was every 6 weeks and 4 weeks apart, depending on the kinds of chemo he had. He did well with it. We took him in on Fridays, so he had the weekend, and by Tuesday he was ready to go back to school. They did come a long ways with the medicine that they said 10 years earlier than this, he would have never went to school at all. But the medicines that help with the nauseousness and things that have advanced so much in the last 10 years that you can kind of have a normal life. So he went to school, kept up with his work, and till the very last round, which was May 22nd, he kept all his rounds on time. He did just super. God was just so good to him, and the doctors and nurses were all amazed. Most kids got sedated to do MRIs, got sedated to do radiation. Not Clayton. He wanted out of that hospital as soon as he could. I'm not going to sleep, Mom. Just get me back out of here. So he was determined to do it, and he did. He laid still. We had some times during radiation that got a little long, and he got a little antsy, and I told the doctors, if there's another day like this, I need you to put him out because I can't do that again. But the Lord got us through it all. The last round on May 22nd, We rang the bell that they have for the kids to ring, and he was all done until his 11th birthday. It started the 26th. We were up for a checkup, and I told him, I said, I think he's getting pink eye or something. And they're like, oh yeah, that is pink eye. Just put these drops in and he'll be better in a couple days. Well, till the next morning, his eyes were pasted shut and swollen shut. And I called the doctors and the Geisinger, and I said, his eyes are shut. I said, I can't even pry them open to get the medicine in. They said, oh, well, it'll be fine. Just keep doing it and he'll be okay. But if you think you need attention, call your family doctor. I said, well, I will, because I knew he was sick. And I called the family doctor, and he numbed the eyes so he could open them and see what was going on inside. And he's like, I don't think it's pink eye, but I don't know what else it could be. So if he's any worse tomorrow, you get him up to the hospital right away. So tomorrow morning, he was worse yet. His eyes were all red. So we packed our bags and put him in the car, and I took him to the hospital. And we got up there, the doctor took one look at him, and he said, are your bags packed? I said, absolutely. He says, good mom. He said, because he's got an infection in those eyes. He said, he's not going anywhere. Here he had cellulitis in his eyes, both of them swollen shut, as red as a beet. And they said, we have to make sure it didn't go to the brain. So there we sit all day at the hospital waiting on a CAT scan, but they started antibiotics right away. And then we had to get admitted, and then they took us down that evening for a CAT scan. And they said, all was clear, it's not in the brain. We just have 14 days of antibiotics through your port, which I have along that if anybody wants to see it, I'll have it in the back. That they embedded a port under his skin so he could go swimming or anything. And he wouldn't always have to find the veins, because on a little child like that, and not drinking or eating enough, his veins always rolled away and things. So it was quite a blessing to have a port that goes right into the veins in your neck. So we were in the hospital 5 days with that, and then they sent us home, and I finished giving the antibiotics through the port. Then they taught me how to do it and everything. So he's had a lot of journey. He then had to go through an eye specialist. He graduated from that in October of that year, and he got 2015 vision back. The doctors are just so amazed how well he's doing. Then, let's see, where do I want to stop? He went through a spell where about 18 months he didn't grow and he didn't gain weight. He might have grew a half of an inch at the most in that 18 months. And then the doctor said, it's time we send you to an endocrinologist specialist. So they sent us there, and now he is on a growth hormone. But the doctors also explained to me on there that we have 6 hormones in our bodies. Some of you are nurses and you know all this. It's 5 or 6. And one of them is to tell you when you're hungry, to tell you when you're full, something with the kidneys, and a growth hormone, I think is it testosterone, and thyroid, whatever the thyroid does.